Hey, it's Nathan Crane, Director of the Health and Healing Club and host of the Conquering Cancer Summit. And today I am honored and excited to welcome you to a very special interview.
And I am joined again by Liliana Partida, who's a clinical nutritionist here at the Cancer Center for Healing in Irvine, California. We just finished a fascinating conversation on emotional healing and a technology they use here called EVOX, which is really helping you identify some of the root causes of emotional traumas that could be affecting your healing process. So I encourage you to go listen to that interview. It is very informative and inspiring, to say the least. So Liliana, thank you so much for joining us again. You are a clinical nutritionist here. You work with the patients and helping to design personalized nutrition programs to support each patient on their individualized healing journey, right?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like and what people need to understand about nutrition and success in nutrition when it comes to dealing with cancer.
Okay. So most of our patients are very educated when they come here. And oftentimes they've exhausted conventional medicine and they're not really getting the right advice. Many of my patients, I've said, well, what have you done in regards of your diet? How have you changed it? They said, well, I asked the oncologist and they said, just keep your weight on, don't lose weight, and you can eat whatever you want, right? And so again, I think that that's sad because there's so much information now that we realize that, cancer thrives off of glucose. And of course, so does the brain and the body. And so of course we want the right kind of fuel.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I do is I meet patients where they're capable of creating and starting a way of living. Not everybody's ready to make radical changes. I mean, oftentimes the doctor will say, oh, you need to be a vegan, or you need to go raw, or you need to do this, right? But again, they come in my office and they're like, oh gosh, they just took away everything and I hate being this way and I don't want to be there. Well, that in itself, by itself, won't allow them to heal. If I have a belief system that being a vegan is not good for me, then I will guarantee you in a couple of months we're going to see their blood work all not be good.
Yep.
And so
we talked all about the biology of belief in the past interview and how it directly affects your body's ability to respond to the beliefs that you're having and can either instigate the proliferation of the disease or actually help healing. So this belief that you're talking about in the diet itself, I think that's a piece that not a lot of people think about.
Yeah, no,
right?
they don't.
That
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I don't want to eat that. I hate this salad. Oh, I don't want to eat this salad. I want a cheeseburger. I hate this. Well, you might be getting some nutrients from that, but you're just adding fuel to the fire with these negative beliefs that we know are so powerful.
Absolutely. Right? And so I'm really big on swap outs. Okay. So if I'm going to ask you to entertain the idea to give up grain or to give up dairy, because a lot of these foods have high lectins in it, which can cause an inflammatory response to the gut. And of course, they don't realize that, okay, a cup of brown rice or quinoa has got about 40 carbohydrates in it. And a lot of our patients, we put them on a modified ketogenic diet. Now, again, any diet shouldn't be, like for the rest of your life. Everything, because we have such biological duality, what works for a couple of months may not work for you at all and may start reversing situations. So we have to do the lab work on these things. So first
with ketogenic diet, for example, I want to talk a little bit more about that because I know so you put people on these shorter term diets and then you're switching them, right? So you're not saying, oh, be on ketogenic for a year or 6 years or the rest of your life.
Yeah, that would be very unhealthy.
Right, because I mean, the literature, I've done so much research on ketogenic because it's this huge thing that's blown up all over, right? I've interviewed world-leading experts on this topic and people working hands-on with cancer patients, and there are a lot who are saying, do not give cancer patients ketogenic diet, right? Because yes, we know that cancer thrives on glucose, so you starve it, but we also know cancer can start utilizing ketones as energy, right?
Absolutely.
It's got an intelligence. Thrive on ketones. So you have to know what cancer first, right?
Right, and so we have the RGGC that can give us a pathway in which cancer is getting its uptake of nutrients. So again, if we have high insulin levels and it's using the glycogen, the glucose pathway, then I know, and they have diabetes oftentimes, then I know I've got to put them on a very, very low carbohydrate diet. And so I start them off, and it's a modified ketogenic. So for women, I might put them on 36 grams, 30 of carbohydrates, and a man anywhere between 45 and 60.
What percentage is that?
So it's about, I'd say between about 12%, honestly. So
12% carbs.
Yeah.
What
so
percent
I usually
protein?
20% protein, and then I do 12% carbohydrates,
So
and then if they're vegans, I do 15, and then I do the rest in good healthy fats.
So 65% fat. So
yeah, so anywhere
like
between because keto is usually between 80 and 85%. Yeah, and then your carbohydrates are between 5 and 8%, which is really low.
Right.
I mean, honestly,
you
two
can't
carrots
get any fruit and vegetables.
2 carrots is 18 carbs, right?
Right.
So again, you've got to be realistic. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And then of course we can do intermittent fasting, which I love to do, because then that's just another way to not only reduce the calories, but also start to heal the cells metabolically, especially if they're in a pre-diabetic or diabetic state. It's very important to heal the pathways that allows energy to come in. So when I see a patient, I've got all their blood work, I've got the advice that the doctor's suggesting. If they've got breast cancer, a lot of times Dr. Brita will want to put somebody on a vegan diet, okay? And so then I always say, okay, well, how can we compromise a little bit? So maybe we can do fish a couple days a week and slowly
somebody's really I need my meat, I need fish,
they are, they're just
like,
because I want my patients to be happy.
Yeah.
Happiness is, like I said, one of the best antidotes you can have for healing. And so
so true.
So then basically, we kind of say, okay, what are you willing to do? I know what you're capable, but what are you willing to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you say here's what you should do, here's what we recommend?
Yep.
You give them kind of the blueprint.
Yep. So I talk to them about the science of food. I go, okay, so this is what I'm going to do.
And what is those principles? What are at least the base principles for most people dealing with cancer?
Yeah, so basically we say, okay, there's the macronutrients, right? And so, for example, you've got your protein, and I say, okay, anything that comes from something that has eyeballs on it is going to be a protein source if we're looking at animal proteins,
sure.
Okay? Whether it is milk coming from a cow or eggs coming from a chicken, that's going to be proteins. And there's protein in carbohydrates like beans, but then it's going to have both protein and carbs. So let's look at that. And then we have the carbohydrate family, which is everything from the plant kingdom. So whether it's vegetables, fruits, beans, or grains, those are all glucose component foods.
Yep.
So then what I say is, okay, if a food, after you cook it, does not have any water in it, it's a high sugar food. So your potato, your carrots, your peas, your corn, your butternut squash. So I say, okay, let's look at it this way. Let's keep the ones that are highly nutritious, and let's just give those ones up that are a little bit what we call filler foods. And the filler foods, in my opinion, are the grains. Anything that expands when you cook it is going to be the highest glucose. So when I have rice, it gets, it expands, or bread expands, or pizza expands, or bagels expand. We don't want expansion, we want contraction when it comes to reducing our situation. If I cook something like spinach, it's excreting water. If I cook, zucchini, with these foods that excrete water are giving you something, and they're still going to retain their minerals even if you cook it. You don't need to eat raw all the time, because then you start building the enzymes that are important for all the foods you eat.
Yeah.
A lot of bloating, a lot of gas and things of that nature when they're not used to it, because they don't have.
Some things you definitely want to.
Oh yeah, you want raw.
Cook.
Yeah,
some
you
things
want
you
cook.
definitely want to cook, and some things are better raw. Right?
Yeah, I kind of say 50-50 split. Okay, let's always have a really big salad on there, so you got a lot of chlorophyll-rich foods in there, so you can kind of support a little bit of the heterocyclic amines of the meats, high chlorophyll, and then your cooked vegetables. Especially cancer patients need oftentimes to have more warm foods.
Yeah.
And a lot of these juices and raw foods, they're very cold ayurvedically.
Yeah.
And so it's not beneficial to the gut.
And so, in terms of the proteins, right? You're talking more of the animal proteins, for example. Obviously, we know we can get plenty of protein from plants, right?
Yes.
But in terms of animal proteins, what's your take on decades of hard science, hard literature on they are inflammatory, right? They are carcinogenic in many cases, especially processed meats, right?
Yeah.
And they can directly contribute to cancer. So what are your take on meats in general?
Yeah, so I think, eating is an inflammatory response in and of itself, okay? And of course we want to keep the body as alkaline as possible. So I tell my patients, if they are going to consume animal protein, no more than once a day. The other 2 meals need to be vegetarian, vegan, okay? And if we could compromise and maybe just do 2 to 3 times a week, would even be better.
Sure.
So I'm very much a proponent of having more vegetarian meals.
Yeah.
And so then we can get our protein. I love hemp seeds.
Yeah.
I know 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds is almost the equivalent of 2 eggs.
Yeah.
So I tell my patients hemp seeds and some sunflower seeds
What about
or
flax?
pumpkin seeds.
Flax and chia.
All those are great for like morning cereals. I love to do like a nut cereal with the chia seed and the hemp seeds and so forth. So I give them options. I say, okay, but then after a while people can get, oh my gosh, I'm sick of this and I can't have tofu because of, you know, the estrogenic components. So I say, okay, let's do beans, okay? But then again, I say, let's do it for your blood type. So depending on what blood type you are, there's going to be specific beans that are going to be more beneficial in terms of digestion. And then I teach them how to cook them, okay? Let's soak them with a little bit of apple cider vinegar,
and then you
drain
counteract the lectins in them, and they actually become super healing.
And,
plus the fiber and the minerals.
And then I tell them, well, if you really want to do it, you know, with the highest benefit, is let's turn them into a resistant starch. Don't eat them the day that you take them out of the pressure cooker. Put them in the refrigerator. They're going to shrink a little bit. They're going to lose about 10% of their glucose. And then if you even eat them cold on a salad, they're still going to even be less sugar. But they're going to have all the fiber. There'll be a resistant starch. So even with sweet potato, I do the same thing. You know, steam a sweet potato and then, you know, keep it in the refrigerator. So when you make a beautiful salad, you've got texture to it. It's just not lettuce and leaves. I mean, people are like, I'm not a cow. You know, I have a double stomach. I want to eat grass all day long. They hate that. So if I mean, give them,
what you're saying is follow the foundations. You know, plant-based, organic. Are you telling them organic?
100%.
Right. Because you don't want the chemicals, the pesticides, the herbicides. Much more plant-based, more vegetables, more greens, right? All these things. If you're going to eat meat, reduce it as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, what about, you mentioned diabetes a couple of times, right? So have you seen all the research done by the Mastering Diabetes group? Not done by them, but compiled by Mastering Cyrus and Robbie Barbaro. Have you seen the Mastering Diabetes plan?
No, I have not. I haven't seen that.
It's really fascinating because they've actually compiled like the most research on diabetes, which also correlates over to cancer, right? In terms of a lot of these diets, but they actually put and they've helped tens of thousands of people reverse type 2 diabetes by actually putting them on a high carbohydrate, healthy carbohydrate. Now, not talking grains and things like that. We're talking vegetables and fruit, right? And actually reversing type 2 diabetes in about 90% of people. And low fat, actually. So it's like the opposite.
It is the opposite.
Which is really fascinating to me. And I know a lot of doctors are now, you know, prescribing that in terms of healing cancer as well, because what they're finding is with, you know, all of these, you're getting all the fiber, right?
All the butyrate, you know, which
healing
is great.
The gut, right? All the vitamins and nutrients, all the amino acids, all these things, and they put them on a plant-based, right? And they've just seen extraordinary results.
And I love it because I tell everybody, you have to become your own personal experiment. Okay. And what
I've been a laboratory of myself for 15 years.
We're all biohackers, right? So what works for this person may not work for you because it has to work with all components of who you are as a person. And so I think it's great. I like Joel Green's work, you know, the immunity code. And he's busting everybody, you know, in regards of what we thought about really nutrition. And so again, it's all about, once again, healing the gut. And I was telling you earlier that we have this Nutri-Evaluation that can really identify what we're deficient in.
This is a blood test?
It's a blood test. It's a blood test we do here. It's very comprehensive, but it tells us everything you're deficient in. Vitamins, minerals, amino acid, your gut, your toxins, heavy metals. So even with that, I can see right away someone's got a leaky gut issue. Well, you're not going to get healed if we've got permeability going on there. And so really my focus is on the gut. Okay, let's really work on the gut. And this is why
what are your top things you do for the gut?
So for the gut, first of all, we look to see, and we have communication feedback on this as well, is we say what is compromising the gut, number one? Do we have candida? Do we have parasites? So we want to get rid of the bugs as best as we can, and then we want to, you know, bring in an army, bring in the enzymes as far as to break down foods. So it depends on a person and what their issues are. Maybe they've got SIBO, maybe they've got, you know, H. pylori. These things need to be remedied in order to go forward. Otherwise, you're just band-aiding things. And
so they're causing chronic inflammation. They're taking away energy from the immune system to heal the cancer.
And that's where your immune system is. And your immune system really is in the gut.
70% at least is in the gut, right?
Right. And so again, that's my focus, is let's work on healing the gut. Let's get the bad guys out there. Let's, you know, start to heal, you know, I mean, unfortunately, cancer patients, we can't give them glutamine, which is one of, you know, an amino acid that's very, very healing for the gut. So we've got to go around that, you know, with other components, aloe vera and you know, berberine and a lot of things.
What about plant sources that have glutamine in it?
You can have that. So you can have.
You just don't give them the
Yeah,
supplement.
yeah, exactly. So again, we just wouldn't give them, a pill or an IV or anything of that nature. Like glutathione also is one of those.
Because cancer can adapt to that pathway, and
correct,
I mean,
it can utilize. Yeah, it can utilize it. So,
energy, yeah.
but in food, it's fine. Because you're going to have all kinds of amino acids in all foods, whether they're vegetarian, plant-based, or not. And those really aren't the problem. It's that actually, if you're doing a therapeutic dosage, that becomes the problem.
It's a high dose, exactly.
Exactly.
Yep.
So the whole marshmallow root and all that kind of stuff is really important for healing the gut. So we've got a lot of different
marshmallow
protocols.
root. What are some other ones that you love?
So I love the marshmallow root. I love the glutamine, of course, but we can't use that.
You said aloe vera.
The aloe vera, I like that a lot. I love to try to reestablish the butyric acid in the gut as well.
How do you do that?
Well, it's with the way some of the components of the things that you eat can actually reestablish, because this is butyric acid allows you to make the B vitamins, and without B vitamins, we're not going to heal very well. Right? And this is what I love about the Healing Code. He's got a really great protocol in all of these aspects, whether it's to increase the butyric acid, or whether it's to decrease IL-6 or any of the inflammatory cascades. It's great. And I'm like, wow, this is really, it's new. Right? I mean, he's even talking about COVID. I go, when did he bring this book out? This is new, because obviously COVID was a year ago, within this year. So again, I love berberine too. I think that's really important, because it has 3 different pathways. You're dealing with, it helps for blood sugar issues, it helps for cholesterol issues, and lower bowel bacteria issues.
Okay.
So we have a lot of different formulas that we like to use, but that's the main thing, is let's work on healing your gut. Let's get your mindset in, I'm not giving up anything. What I'm doing is I'm adding all these wonderful foods that I feel absolutely fantastic on, and if there was any weight to lose, I'm losing that weight too. I have more energy, more mental clarity, I'm sleeping better, I'm not bloated, I'm not gassy, I'm not mucousy. So I say, how can you lose? And I think, get your family, if they're willing to engage with you, and they're like, that's the byproduct. Oh, my husband lost 15 pounds, or gosh, my husband who had dementia, he's actually getting up and wanting to talk. And so again, it's beautiful. And so again, everybody's a personal experiment. And so, like I said, like you're very educated. So you don't want to eat animal products, okay? So you might say, okay, well, I won't even go there. So then I've got to say, okay, well, how do we have it with the highest nutrition so that we can keep a balance? And of course, they're going to have a lot more things that are carbohydrate, glucose oriented. But like what you said, you have the ones that are high fiber oriented, that have good antioxidants. The fruits, the berries are all fantastic. The apple pills, apples, things of that nature.
And then cruciferous vegetables.
Right, and all the cruciferous
going
vegetables.
Into the healing side
absolutely.
Of vegetables, all the dark leafy greens.
Yeah, all those sulfur type foods that really support the body and detoxification. And so then once the patient really understands that, wow, they've got such a variety to choose from, I'm not really giving up anything. I have a swap out. I have a cookbook coming out here pretty soon. I'm in the last phase of editing.
Oh, you do?
So it'll be half vegetarian and half kind of, animal protein.
Okay.
But, it really covers so much of everything. So it's great. It's important, because that's everybody, because I have such a passion for food. I love cooking.
Right, I can
and
tell.
They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. You're making me so hungry. And like, don't you have a cookbook? And I'm like, it's on its way. So that's going to be, really fantastic. Nice. Yeah.
You have a name for it yet?
Well, it's just called Liliana's, Keto Kitchen.
Cool.
And
Keep
then,
an eye out for it. There you go.
And then I'm also going to be rolling out, which we'll be rolling out here in the Center for New Medicine. It's the 6 pillars to kind of keto stocking. So again, starting off with that, but then switching it over to a maintenance. But I don't think I missed anything, from coffee enemas to gallbladder liver flushes to the emotional. Green juices as well.
What's your favorite green juice recipe?
So my favorite green juice is going to be celery and cucumber as the base, because they're very low in sugar and very high water. I love spinach because it's not that bitter, and then we can get a lot of good iron and sulfur in there. And then I like to do a little bit of ginger, lemon, turmeric, and I say put things like you would a salad. Throw a whole thing of romaine lettuce in there and some fennel in there. So I try to get patients not to go too high on the bitters, because then they want the sweets. They want the apple and the carrots. And I said, use a carrot, use one carrot. Carrot or beet are my favorite. I said, but don't use carrot, beet, and apple, because then this might be too much glucose.
Then it's just pure sugar.
Right, exactly. So so there's a place for everything in regards of how we look at it. And like I said, we got to switch it up, because what might really work well for somebody a couple of months later might not work for them. And so we have to
keep an eye on it as well, and see how your body's responding.
And I tell my patients, you need to give me information so that I know what's happening? What does your bowel movement look like? You know, do you get distension and bloating after you eat a meal? How do you feel? How's your energy? How's your sleeping? So I really connect with my patients in regards to you matter, and what you feel matters to me, so that I can shift and create this uniquely to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for this great wealth of knowledge. I mean, I know we could talk for hours.
Yes.
But I think hopefully some people got some great tips and tools and takeaways here. Obviously, you know, if you want to get more extensive information on your own maybe nutrient profile, what you're missing, even food allergies are an important testing to get right, and then really have, you know, expert support from somebody who knows what they're doing, like the team here, to help you identify, you know, the foods that are going to help you be as successful as possible on your healing journey. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Conquering Cancer Summit. Please share this with friends and family. Together, we truly can make a difference for the future of humanity in ending the cancer pandemic. Thank you, and I wish you ultimate health and happiness. Be well.